You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast where it's finally happened. Karim Janat has hit 1,000 T20 runs. No, I'm joking of course. India have finally won a game. They've turned up. They were intent machines, racking up 209 runs and dispatching Afghanistan and reviving their hopes of a chance of making the semi-finals. We'll also be talking about the earlier match today. Very briefly, as New Zealand overcame Namibia, Scotland, one of the minnows.
The other one.
Comfortably, in the morning lunchtime game here in the UK. I am Jack Hope. I am joined today by Max Rowe Brown. How are you doing, Max Rowe Brown?
Hello. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Jack. Nice to see India finally showing us what they're all about.
Yeah, and
or maybe
DJ...
this is the blip. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, and we've got DJ from Edges and Sledges. How are you doing, DJ? Are you happy that India have played a good game of cricket?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little happier than I was on Sunday and the Sunday before that, obviously. So it's all relative. We're still just about hanging on by our fingernails at this point. That last over from Hardik Pandya giving away those many runs wasn't what we needed. Not a six off the last ball. It's all about net run rate, but India hasn't got its fate in its own hands anymore. So we're banking on the team I think we've just beaten to beat the team that just beat us. So
yes, it's cricket. It makes sense. Max, what are the messages for our listeners, for our viewers?
First of all, like and subscribe to the video and our channel on YouTube. Just press like now. Just do it. Done it. Good. Right. And next, go over to Instagram and Twitter and follow us at the Cricket Pod to get involved, where you can send in questions and follow our sound bites as we follow along with the games. And I'm sure you'll agree with everything that we have to say. And we are sponsored by Woodstock Cricket, so if you want some new cricket gear, head over to their website for a code TCP25 at 25% off.
No, we give them the code, then you go to the website. That's right. How this journey works.
Codes in the show notes, down the bottom.
Great. Max, can you also tell us a little bit about the cricket match we just watched?
Indeed, yes. So India, on the back of two fairly uninspiring defeats, were coming up against the intent machines of Afghanistan, where many people maybe sensed there could be a bit of a slip. And as Afghanistan won the toss and put India into bat, those thoughts maybe even strengthened. However, Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul reminded us all that they are in fact excellent cricketers, and KL Rahul showed us that he can in fact score runs in the power play and not just eat balls. And they rocketed on to 53 off the first six and then kicked on even further, putting on an opening stand of 140 or so, as Afghanistan's dreams of an unlikely victory evaporated as quickly as the sweat does on the backs of the players in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Sharjah. Once those two were out, they set in Pant and Pandya, who just carried on smacking the ball everywhere. And it was pretty bad for Afghanistan, who conceded 210 on the nose, exactly as Jack had predicted in the WhatsApp chat before, the soothsayer that he is. And as the turn of innings came, I don't think anybody had any belief that Afghanistan would overhaul such a total. And so it proved, despite some brief flashes from Ramnil Gurbaz, who, after taking a nasty blow to the head, trying to glance with his forehead, a Brummer delivery down to third man, then, I don't know, it obviously knocked something into him as he proceeded to take Shami to the cleaners, but ultimately fell soon after. And there was a little bit of hitting as well late on from Janat and Mohammed Nabi, but ultimately they fell far short, and it was a very comfortable win for India in the end. Although perhaps might be ruining some opportunity to really overhaul the net run rate.
If India can't improve their net run rate from where it is against India, against India, against Scotland and Namibia, then there's a problem. There's a bigger problem than Hardik Pandya being hit for 6 off the last ball of this match. DJ, it must have been what was different about this match compared with the other two? Because India they played front foot cricket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the metaphor of front foot, not as in on the front foot. In
What was probably different was the bowling was about 10 kilometers per hour slower. You got Shaheen Shah Afridi. It's quite hard to get on the front foot against that guy. He's about 8 feet tall and swings it back in. When you're 1 for 2 in the first over, it's quite hard to get back on the front foot. And then on the other hand, you've got Trent Bolt and Tim Southee. They're quite good as well. So I think, Afghanistan, I've got a lot of respect for them. What they've done in white ball cricket is absolutely amazing, but they don't, other than Rashid Khan and Nabi and possibly Mujib, they haven't quite got the bowling attack to challenge a sort of top class batting order in prime form. What wasn't different was Kohli losing another toss. I can't remember the last time. I think there was once he won a toss and he walked away thinking he'd lost the toss because he was so used to losing the toss. That's actually true. Plus, I've quite enjoyed your comments because clearly you've picked up some Pakistani fans who are asking whether this game was fixed. Just to answer them, I don't think so. It's quite hard to fix those one-handed sixes as Rishabh Pant was hitting. So,
three one-handed sixes, wasn't it? Mostly hit while he was lying on the floor. That was an extraordinary display.
He's an acrobat and a scholar.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Max, what did you think about the mixed-up order? So they chose not to send in Kohli at 3 after KL Rahul and Rohit had got them off to such a good start, sending in Rishabh, and then deferred Kohli again, going with Hardik. Did that make sense to you? I think it made sense to me.
100%.
But what was good about it?
Well, it was just exactly the right way to play cricket, isn't it? Where were we at that stage? The 13th over, I think, and there is absolutely no point in sending in Kohli in the 13th over because we know he takes a little while to get going, and you don't have a little while at that stage. So why not send in one of your battery of players you've got who will go for it from ball one? So I would have not been surprised if they'd sent in Kohli. That's the thing. It would have been it wouldn't have been completely shocking. Yeah, but it was great to see that they went with the logical approach and sent in the right people for the right job. And I think if either Pandya or Pant had fallen, they'd have sent in Sky and Jadeja in as well ahead of Kohli.
Yeah, quite possibly. DJ, what influence has famous, what's the phrase we were using? Oh my goodness, my brain's gone to pot. Dhoni in the IPL, the non-playing captain, the specialist captain. That was a much harder journey that I had to go on, neurological journey than I was hoping.
The mentor.
Yeah. What role has Dhoni, the famous specialist captain and mentor of the Indian cricket team, had on Kohli and his decision to drop down the order? Do you think there's something there?
Well, Dhoni's been famous for dropping down the order himself while he's been playing, right? So my co-podcaster Ashwin hates the fact that he comes into bat at 7 and 8 below Sam Curran and those guys. But anyway, more generally, I think this was just a logical decision to make. As Max pointed out, in the 13th over, you don't need a guy who's going to hit singles, and twos, and possibly fours. You need a guy who can clear the boundary, and Pant and Pandya, India's biggest hitters. Interestingly, Ishan Kishan did turn out to be an actual injury replacement rather than a tactical change. So maybe the back spasm, which as Indian fans, we were all fairly cynical about back spasms all of a sudden to Sky, bringing Ishan Kishan in, but they dropped him for this game and brought Sky back in.
Except Ishan Kishan fielded for about half the game.
Yeah, probably because Sky had back spasms. But Sky's quite a good fielder. I don't know who he was on for. But I think, it's tough to tell what effect Dhoni's had on this team, right? It's only been mentor for how many days has it been since the IPL? Not even a month. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, 15 or something like that.
Yeah, it feels, on a different point, I mean, we talk about workloads, right? Like, it's quite hard just following all the cricket that's going on again. I mean, you guys probably feel it doing daily podcasts. Our podcast is once a week, and we feel the strain of following all the cricket. Imagine playing that much cricket. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
back to
that's
the point. Don't know what Dhoni's effect is really. Maybe he's a calming influence in the dressing room. Maybe there's a strategy input he provides from the dressing room along with Shastri. But other than a guy who's won a lot of cricket games and trophies, having him in the dressing room, I don't know what tangible effect it actually makes, given the other people in the dressing room with Shastri and Kohli and the others. Can't really tell.
Yeah, Max, is there anyone who you're particularly impressed by from an Indian perspective? You talked about Rishabh Pant and his sixes rolling on the floor. Rohit Sharma, I thought, was good.
I think Rohit Sharma for me was the other guy that impressed, because he's not had a great time of it lately, has he? He's sort of struggled to form a bit, and he really came out today and did the business in the power play and then kicked on. I mean everyone played well with the bat for India today, but it was nice to see Rohit Sharma do it on the sort of with the context of the struggles he's had recently. You know, disappointment with Mumbai Indians, maybe having a few extra, like a week or so extra off, along with Rahul for not making the playoffs has helped him out a bit. Who knows? But that was good to see. Helped possibly a little bit by some rather wayward Afghanistan bowling. As much as we should praise the way India batted, we should probably also cover the Afghanistani bowling approach.
Yeah, I was going to get there. There was some weird bowling in terms of just the raw execution of skills being quite subpar for this level of cricket. Like there were some balls where I think I know people who would comfortably have hit them for 4 or 6. But there was also like some interesting use of bowlers, or an interesting use of some of the bowlers in there as well. Nabi himself only bowled the first over of the game, which was a little bit curious. Now I know he's an off spinner bowling it would have been mainly to right-handers, it would have been only to right-handers except Pant actually, wouldn't it? So maybe there was a match-up choice there. Karim Janat, we saw him bowl 4 overs against Pakistan, albeit that the last over got Asif Ali'd, so maybe he's got the yips after that. What specifically do you think they did wrong?
Well, I think possibly Naveen bowling consistently short and wide. That was probably one thing they got wrong. Not so much a tactical thing, just don't do that. And I guess I can see why they bowled Sharafuddin, given that he's the left arm spinner and there were 2 right-handers. But I think after his first over, they should have just bailed on that plan, because he was absolutely terrible. And it clearly wasn't there was no threat from the left arm spin at that point. And possibly should have got Rashid on in the power play, I think. I think they possibly waited too long to bring him on.
Yeah,
he did. He didn't. But but that's the thing. You know, he didn't tie things down in the power after the power play. So I know ideally you don't want to bowl him in the power play, because that's kind of that's the ploy, isn't it? Against a team with Rashid Khan, you want to force them to bring him on. But I feel like maybe they should have at least tried that. Because he might have got a wicket, because he is really fucking good at bowling. So that would have made a difference.
Well, where we have seen, I mean, to sort of back that point up, where we have seen India play strangely in the last couple of games is when they've been under a little bit of pressure early on, because they have lost wickets. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on some of these players, because I think they probably were just outmatched a little bit by a much better Indian side here. But Mohammad Nabi, Naveen ul-Haq and Sharafuddin Ashraf are not players that immediately spring to mind in this Afghan lineup when I think likely to take early wickets, or likely to take a wicket, to be honest. And Naveen ul-Haq, he's bowled okay in this tournament, but he bowls like Bumrah, but about 10 miles an hour slower. And I feel like the Indian batters are probably sort of
used to that.
Seen that before. Yeah. I don't. From an Indian perspective, it must have been a joy to see some of the deliveries that were sent down, DJ.
Yeah, it was great. It was like if you've gone down a division in your club league, all of a sudden you can time the ball again because you've got that extra split second.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise you're struggling with the pace and the spin. I mean, the last game, you watched Rohit Sharma, there was one ball, I think, from Trent Boult, and he missed it by a foot.
Mm.
Rohit Sharma missing a ball by a foot is, I mean, he was going at it very hard. It's just a different class. But there will be others, and I think there are others in the comments that were upset that India didn't put away the 5 full tosses that they got. There were 5 full tosses which India did put away, so they didn't get 240. I think we should just be careful because 210 was a big score. It's not a computer game, so you don't press a button and hit a 6. It takes a lot of skill to hit a 6 at this level. So we, as Indian fans, were extremely critical. Obviously, we were really hurt by the last 2 games, coming in as the favourites and then losing to Pakistan and New Zealand. So it's nice to see. We were helped by the Afghanistan bowling. There is no doubt about that. And they lacked a little bit of class. And by the time Rashid came on to bowl, India had got away. So it sort of played into our hands, holding Rashid back as well a little bit. But it was a good batting performance, and it'll give them confidence, which is what they were lacking. It also, they've got so much kind of abuse back home for crashing out of the World Cup early and stuff. It's a good response to say, we know how to play some cricket. This team has run Pakistan quite close, New Zealand quite close. Sorry, they haven't played New Zealand yet. They've run Pakistan quite close, and probably the game of the tournament.
Yeah, it was a great match. Yeah,
it was a great game. Asif Ali was the difference at the end, right, with the 4 sixes. But yeah. So it's a good win for Indian fans, and I mean, Afghanistan will bounce back strongly as well because they are a good side. They just had a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, you went through a few names just now about people who you wouldn't expect to take wickets in the power play, but there's a guy missing, an enforced missing player from that lineup who has been taking wickets in the power play in the form of Mujeeb, and I mean that's massive, isn't it, for Afghanistan? Surely, I mean, and that's going to be any hope they have of overturning New Zealand, and any hope India have of overturning New Zealand must rest with him.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't see that bowling attack standing up to New Zealand, even with Rashid Khan. It's just he just doesn't bowl. 4 overs is just not enough overs to put pressure on the pretty decent, let's be honest, New Zealand batting lineup. Even if you took 3 for, I'd still think New Zealand would put 150 on the board. Bowling wise, India came out and they were pretty good with the ball as well. 13 for 1, 13 for 2. Max, you mentioned Gurbaz got hit on the head, then went ballistic, then got out. It was one of those moments when he got hit on the head, and this is probably a slightly 90s joke, but there's a famous quote from a football manager. I think was it Brian Clough, who had a player
probably, if it's the 90s,
who got hit on the head, knocked out, and the physio came off and said to Brian Clough, the player he's been hit on the head, he's been knocked out, and he doesn't know who he is. And Clough said, "Tell him he's Pele and put him up front." It was a little bit. It was with Gurbaz. It was a little bit like, I don't know, tell him he's Andre Russell, and because he did play some good shots after that, but then fell. I think to some extent. It was
only just fell as well. It was a close one, wasn't it?
It was a really good catch. I tell you what, that catch from Hardik Pandya was a pretty good one, catching it almost over the rope and over his shoulder at the same time.
I suppose that's one thing we also forgot to mention about Afghanistan's performance, their fielding.
Well, I think the less said about that, the better, to be honest. It was woeful. I thought with the bat, there are similar criticisms, not criticisms, but similar problems that they have as they had with the ball, in that Bumrah was a bit too good for them. Jadeja was a bit too good for them. Ashwin was a bit too good for them. Even Mohammad Shami, who I actually don't think should be in this Indian lineup, was running riot earlier on. I think he took some punishment when he came back for his 4th over, but he got Gurbaz.
No. He got Gurbaz, and then he came back and he should have had a hat trick, shouldn't he? If Mr. Third Umpire hadn't been so cruel as to deny Jadeja what was basically a catch.
Yes, I think the general comment I'd make, DJ, is that India's bowling looked pretty good, and it's measured up in most of the games of this tournament. It's been the batting really that has been the problem, right?
Yeah, the bowling looks good when you're defending 210, not 110. Yeah, they've been okay. They haven't. I mean, they didn't take a wicket in the first game. They took, I think, 2 wickets in the second game. But I mean, you're fighting a losing battle once your batters haven't put enough runs on the board. Bumrah's always looked good. Shami is an interesting one actually because he has picked up 3, but he did go for, I think it was 21 in that over, or 17 in that over, something like that. So. I mean, the question would be, who would you replace him with at this stage? Because Bhuvneshwar isn't in great form. The standout for me was actually Ashwin. He brought that class to the bowling lineup, and I'd hope that he would be the one making it into the team at Pandya's expense in the last game against New Zealand, given the number of left-handers they had and stuff as well. But I mean, I thought Ashwin had an outstanding day today. Shardul contributed as well. He was okay. Lord Shardul got some. I think he got. He got hit around, but he looked okay. Ashwin, I thought, was fantastic. 4 overs, 2 for 14. Just, I mean, he isn't the world's fittest cricketer. He isn't the quickest cricketer. He's not the greatest in the field. But what he gives you with the ball on these tracks and on these big grounds is probably unmatched. And you saw the value of Jadeja and Ashwin bowling in tandem. I think it was the first time they did. They've done that since the Champions Trophy, 2017. 4 years on, we've gone through Kuldeep and Chahal. We're now back to Ashwin and Jadeja. And it was amazing because you're spinning the ball in different directions. So the matchups are a lot better. You can spin the ball away from the left-hander and spin it away from the right-hander, depending on whether it's Ashwin or Jadeja bowling. So fast bowlers hunt in pairs, so do spinners, and you saw the value of that today. And it was nice to see Ashwin do well after Indian fans have been asking for him to be included in the side since when we came to England, I think. So it's been a long time since he's been in India colours, actually.
Yeah, he was excellent today. I mean, it's odd, I think, that the way his selection has been handled in white ball cricket for India, it doesn't really make sense, and I don't know if there's something below the surface, or a clash of personalities or whatever it is. Even his selection over the summer in the Test series.
Well, yeah, his non-selection
in
the Test series was insane, wasn't it?
Guys have been following Nick Compton on Twitter. That's what's happening.
He must be quite a patient man, Ashwin. I think there are other players that would have called it a day by now. I mean, I know he can be quite vocal on some issues, but he's either very, very determined to play for India or prepared to put up with a lot of bullshit.
I think he's determined to prove his point as well. That's like you can see that he will just come out and be like, "No, actually, look, I'm really good. You should probably pick me."
Yeah,
I was
14 probably proves that.
Yeah,
yeah. It could be that too. The performance from India means that there's a whole load of net run rate stuff. I'll try and make this as simple as possible. If they'd kept Afghanistan, if they'd won by 90 runs, if they bowled in Afghanistan out for 90, India would have gone ahead of Afghanistan on net run rate today. 130 narrowed the net run rate difference to 1 run. The current net run rate difference is 1.408. If you want it to 3 to a hundredth of a run. Max, realistically, do you think India can overcome that gap in 2 matches against Namibia and Scotland? Assuming here that Afghanistan don't absolutely trounce New Zealand, and assuming obviously that New Zealand lose.
It's very, very difficult to say without a table in front of me that will where I can play around with different margins of victory and work out what can happen. It's entirely possible that India will beat Namibia and Scotland each by 100 runs, or chase down the score in 10 overs. That could easily happen. In which case they do have a shout at overhauling second place, especially if you consider that they need Afghanistan to beat New Zealand, don't they, to be able to qualify? So, yeah, I mean, it'd be tough. But it's doable. Like it is definitely doable. I mean, you saw the swing that Afghanistan had in their game over Scotland. Of it was 6.5 for the one game. So, there's 5 games. That's that would be a swing of about 1.3 in terms of what it would do over the course of 5 games. So yeah, doable, but they'll have to smash them.
Yeah, it would be the most Scottish thing of all time if they put up a hell of a fight and lost narrowly.
Well, they put up a decent fight today, didn't they? So they're on the up on that point.
DJ, what do you reckon India's chances are of qualification?
Afghanistan have got to beat New Zealand, which I think is hard. I think that if Afghanistan manage to beat New Zealand, I would back this team to qualify. Well, the one caveat to that, so the problem is that you start saying what the chances are, and then you start caveating it. So the caveat, Afghanistan have got to beat New Zealand, and then Kohli's got to win at least one toss, which he's quite bad at.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we saw what happened, and you guys follow the IPL as much as we do. You saw what happens when a team decides to just go hell for leather from ball one. The Mumbai Indians did that in the last group game that they played. I think they needed to bowl someone out for 66 and score 240 or something like that. And Ishan Kishan and Rohit Sharma and those guys just came out and flayed it. They just freed their minds and they just scored the highest ever.
Yeah.
I mean, if Afghanistan beat New Zealand, right? India just going to play like that twice.
Yeah. Well, the last game. So, I mean, the last game of the Super 12s is India-Namibia. So that is the day after New Zealand play Afghanistan. So it's all set up nicely for India to try and do that. They've got Scotland on Friday to give them a bit of a head start, and then who knows? Maybe Monday could be.
I think Twitter might melt down if India qualifies.
I think
I might melt down if India qualifies. Then we have to play you probably.
Yeah, and if they do qualify, they'd be quite confident.
I think so.
So there's a few hoops to jump through, I think. So
I unfortunately just can't see this Afghanistan team beating New Zealand. I mean, it's on the bell curve of possibilities, but I think it's 15%. There's a 15% chance, maybe 20% at best of Afghanistan winning, maybe 25 if Majid plays, and they bowl first, whatever it is.
That's 4 times the chances that India have got of qualifying. So I think we'll take those.
Yeah.
6% or something according to CricViz.
I think it's high. I do think it's higher than whatever CricViz say. Just to throw that in there. I think CricViz probably think Afghanistan are better than they are. Afghanistan didn't look like a very good cricket team today.
So I've got blocked people at CricViz already, so I'm not going to comment on that. WinViz didn't go down very well the last time I commented on it.
We had a couple of super chats in. I'll just read them out and then we'll move on to the morning game, if that's right, fellas. So Sunil says, it only takes one thing to click to get back into rhythm. Maybe if Afghanistan upset New Zealand, the game may still be on for India. Well, yeah, I think we probably all agree that if Afghanistan can find a victory there, then India will probably beat Namibia and Scotland hard enough to go through. And Sunil again says India could have won with by 90 runs and ended up leaking 25 more runs in the last few overs. Yeah, I think that just that happens. It was a good pitch, and Afghanistan have got, they got themselves, or the Afghanistan, you don't want to take too much agency away from the guys down the bottom of the order for Afghanistan. They knew if they could slog 140, then their net run rate would be, in theory, still decent. Anyway, morning game. Max, have you got a nice summary prepared for this?
Well, you can be the judge. So New Zealand v Scotland. It was not, as you might have assumed from New Zealand v Scotland, a game of rugby. It was a game of cricket played with a round ball, and it was much smaller. But the size of victory was probably not too dissimilar from what you'd expect from a game of rugby involving New Zealand and Scotland. Martin Guptill was the man for New Zealand, and pretty much the only man, actually, as he scored 93 off 56 and flayed Scotland's bowlers to all parts, really. But there should probably be a special mention in the Scotland bowling attack for, once again, Mark Watt, who took 1 for 13 off his 4 overs and looks pretty difficult to play. And actually, if it wasn't for Martin Guptill, New Zealand would have been in a lot of trouble. Kane Williamson scored a duck. Devon Conway scored 1. Glenn Phillips scored 33, but it came off 37 balls. And really, if it wasn't for Martin Guptill's clean hitting, New Zealand could have been staring down the barrel of an unexpected Scottish win. But they piled on 172 thanks to the man. And Scotland, as much as they gave it a good go, just couldn't quite get there. Everyone got a start who came out. Munsey, Kurtzer, Cross, Barrington all scored approaching or in the 20s. And for a while, it looked like Scotland might genuinely be able to give it a go, as it was a good batting pitch. It was nice to see a good batting pitch. And Adam Milne was cannon fodder for the Scots. But ultimately, they just had a little too much to do. And the golfing class was a little too much for them to overcome. And that's sort of how it went. Michael Leask at the end, 42 off 20 as well, batted nicely, but I don't know if that makes up for 2 of the least good bits of fielding I've seen in this tournament. Sorry, I had to get that in there. But I mean, can we start on the one on the boundary where he just dived sideways instead of taking 1 step to the left? Did you see that?
No, I will be honest. I didn't actually catch too much of this game, Max. So.
Oh mate, it was he'd already dropped 1, which was fairly simple, and then about 2 balls later, as you know, when you've made a pretty bad drop, the ball will follow you around the field, and it was sort of played out quite high out to the boundary, and it was one of those. It was it looked like you might have to sort of catch it and throw it up in the air, and he was very prepared for that, and then ended up sort of watching it go 2 yards to his left as he sort of dived sideways and backwards over the boundary and missed the ball as the ball plonked over the boundary by about a foot. and really all the man needed to do was take 1 step to the left and just catch it. It just completely lost it. It was really bad.
It was good to see Scotland actually play well after they didn't against Afghanistan and Namibia. I mean, they were the 2 matches that they had an actual chance of winning, weren't they? And they didn't. So it was nice to see them play well. And Mark Watt as well. I'm just more and more impressed by this person every time he plays. Is 10 runs fewer than his average for the tournament, 23 for 1. Which is impressive. He's getting better and better. DJ, is there anyone from the Scotland or New Zealand sides or from this game that you were impressed by or not impressed by?
In New Zealand, obviously, Martin Guptill played a blinder. He's always been quite good, even though he has, I think, only 2 toes on 1 foot or something like that. But I mean, you'd expect New Zealand to win that game, right? He got a 50 in 35 balls, and then they just defended it. Not much to really say about that game. It was clinical from New Zealand. They're known to be a professional outfit, and they just got the job done, which is what they needed. They needed the 2 points, right? They're not worried about net run rate and stuff. If they win everything they play, they're done. They've got their fate in their own hands. So if you were in their place, you'd do exactly the same thing. Just a clinical professional performance for those guys. And Scotland generally, I quite like Greaves, the leggy, bats a bit as well. Their opening bowler, he's quite good as well. I think I want to say Wheel is.
Wheel.
Yeah, quite like him. I mean, I'd love to see some of these guys get a go in the IPL or the PSL, because I mean, you see the wealth of talent. The left-hander that opened yesterday, who bowled a couple of really good overs to Rizwan. I've forgotten his name. I want to say
Trumpelman?
Tunbridge Wells, but it's not.
Trumpelman,
Ruben
yeah.
Trumpelman. Yeah.
Trumpelman, that's
Yeah.
he's yeah, but you see the wealth of talent at the associate level, but there's just a gulf in class, right? That they haven't got the right players for the right spots. And so, I mean, New Zealand is a World Cup dying finalist, so you'd expect them to come out winning that game quite easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what you said yesterday, isn't it, Jack, about the Namibia side, really? There's lots of good players in there, but there's just a couple of holes that they can't quite fill to be able to compete across the board.
Great. Fellas, I think that's more or less everything from these two matches. I had a look through the questions we received on Twitter, which is at the Cricket Pod, and I think we've covered most of them. And we had nothing in on our Patreon, although we should give a shout out to Garish, who was at the game that's Sheikh Zayed, isn't it? That one?
Yeah. Sheikh Zayed was India, yeah.
Yeah. So he was there watching and enjoying himself by all accounts. So that's good to see. Anything from you, DJ, to finish us off? Say where your podcast is, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I can do the plug stuff. So we are an Indian cricket podcast. So if you guys like Indian cricket or like dissing Indian cricket, come and have a listen to us. We try not to do too much of the latter because we're obviously Indian cricket fans, and
Leave
we
that
love
to
the
us.
team, whether or not they're doing well. Yeah, we'll leave it to you guys. The cricket pod. But yeah, we are at One Tip One Hand on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So come and say hi there, give us a follow. It's the One Tip One Hand if you're Indian is the gully cricket rule, which I think is called one bounce, one hand in other part of the world. So it's really like you guys, we are a fan-run podcast, so men of the people. We are on all the apps that you can find stuff. We have a YouTube channel, so give us a like and subscribe there. We often go live there as well. It's the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Not much else. There's three of us that run it, Ashwin, Varun, and myself. And we are coming up to 200 episodes on Monday, so yeah, it's a big one. Hopefully it'll be good news as well. Let's see. It would be amazing if India gave us a 200 episode gift, but I doubt it.
Max, anything from you to finish us off? Did we mention
supposed to
everything we
be?
were supposed to? Well,
Well, we haven't mentioned Patreon, have we?
I meant from the cricket.
From the cricket.
Yeah.
No, not really. But actually, I'd like to echo what DJ said about some of the guys getting going there. Franchise tournaments. I think Mark Watt needs to get picked up by someone.
LPN asked Jadeja v Mark Watt, who is the best left arm spinner, and it's obviously Mark Watt. It's not actually. I
mean, I'll take Jadeja in batting and fielding, but I'll have Mark Watt with the ball. That would be the perfect cricketer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The Jadeja Mark Watt hybrid.
Yeah, cool. All right, we're going to wrap up there. Thanks very much for joining us, DJ. Goodbye, everyone. I think we're back tomorrow. I can't remember if it was our day off or not.
I'm around if you want to.
Yeah, let's just assume we're doing one. Cheerio.